Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another depth dive?
Always.
Today, we're heading to the Himalayas, specifically Himachal Pradesh. We're going to explore how this region became known as India's Fruit Bowl.
You know, when you think of Himachal Pradesh, you probably picture those stunning snowy peaks, right?
Exactly. But what most people don't realize is that those slopes are also home to this incredibly diverse and thriving fruit industry.
And it's not just apples, although we'll definitely be talking about those.
Oh, absolutely. Himachal's fruit basket is way more diverse than people think.
From those premium Canon apples to exotic mushrooms in Solan and Sirmoor, it's amazing what grows there.
And then there's the Yarsagumba, the Himalayan Viagra, as it's sometimes called.
Oh yeah, that one's got quite the reputation. It's used in traditional medicine for all sorts of things.
So we've got a fascinating journey ahead. We'll uncover the secrets behind Himachal's success, from its unique geography to the influence of British colonists.
And we'll look at the economic impact of those delicious Himachal fruits reaching global markets.
All right, let's start with the basics. What makes Himachal Pradesh so special when it comes to growing fruits?
Well, it all comes down to altitude.
Altitude. Okay, tell me more about that.
Think of it as a giant staircase of ecosystems.
Yeah.
Different altitudes create these distinct zones, each with its own unique climate, soil, and of course, plants and animals.
Okay, I'm visualizing this staircase, so what's on the first step?
The lowest rung is the Shivalik Hills, ranging from about 350 to 1,500 meters. It's got this subtropical vibe, warm and humid.
So what kind of fruits thrive in that kind of environment?
Think tropical delights, mangoes, lychees, guavas, those fruits that just scream sunshine and warmth.
Sounds delicious. And what about the trees? Anything unique to that zone?
Oh, definitely. You'll find those iconic sal trees there. Their timber is super valuable.
Okay, so we've climbed the first step of our ecosystem staircase. What's next?
Now we ascend to the mid-Himalayan region between 1,500 and 3,000 meters.
This is where we get to those picture-perfect images of Himachal, right?
Exactly. Think rolling hills, lush valleys, and of course those apple orchards everyone associates with Himachal. The climate here is temperate, perfect for apples, apricots, pears.
But it's not just about the fruits. I've seen pictures of those hillsides covered in colorful flowers.
Oh, you're talking about the rhododendrons. They bloom in these vibrant shades of pink and red. It's a sight to behold. And then there are the oaks. They add this whole other layer of beauty to the landscape.
It's like a nature lover's paradise. Okay, time to climb higher. What awaits us in the higher Himalayas?
Now we're between 3,000 and 4,500 meters. The air gets thinner, the landscape more rugged. This is where you find those alpine meadows, dotted with hardy birch and juniper trees.
And what about fruits? Anything growing at this altitude?
Oh yeah, this is where the sea buckthorn thrives. That superfood everyone's talking about.
Sea buckthorn. Okay, we can't just gloss over that. What makes it so special?
Well, for starters, it's packed with vitamins, antioxidants, those omega fatty acids everyone's after. It's like a nutritional powerhouse.
So it's good for you. But what about its economic potential? Is anyone actually growing it commercially?
Oh, absolutely. It's got huge potential, especially in Himachal. Think jams, juices, even cosmetics, all sourced from these high-altitude berries.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, last step of our staircase, the Trans-Himalayan region, above 4,500 meters. I imagine it's pretty desolate up there.
You're not wrong. The air's thin, vegetation's sparse, it's a harsh environment. But even there, you find these incredibly valuable medicinal plants.
Medicinal plants, huh? Now we have to talk about the Himalayan Viagra Yarsagumba, is that right?
That's the one. It's this parasitic fungus that grows on moth larvae.
On moth larvae, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. It's been used in traditional Chinese and Tibetan medicine for centuries, believed to have a whole range of benefits.
Including, as you mentioned, some aphrodisiac properties.
Well, let's just say it's got a reputation.
Okay, so we've explored the different altitude zones and the unique fruits and plants that grow in each. But let's be real. When most people think of Himachal Pradesh, they think of apples.
Yeah, apples are definitely the king of Himachal's fruit industry.
I mean, how can anything else compete with that?
You're right, apples generate about 80% of the state's horticultural revenue. That's a big chunk. But Himachal's fruit basket is so much more diverse than just apples.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these other fruits. What else is making a splash in Himachal's orchards?
Well, each region has its specialty. Take Kinnaur, for example. They're known for their premium apples, but also for their apricots. They're incredibly flavorful because of the high altitude and mineral-rich soil.
Okay, my mouth is watering already. What about other regions?
Then you've got Shimla, Kulu, Mandi. Those areas are practically bursting with cherries, plums, pears.
It's like a fruit paradise up there. And what about those lower regions, the ones we talked about earlier?
Well, Solon and Sirmour are known for their mangoes, guavas, and they even grow some pretty exotic mushrooms there.
Mushrooms. Okay, that's a curveball. I never would have thought of Himachal Pradesh as a mushroom hub.
Right. And let's not forget Lahore Spiti. That's where that sea buckthorn we talked about earlier really shines. It's becoming increasingly popular.
So we've got this amazing variety of fruits, each thriving in its own little niche. But how did Himachal Pradesh even become this fruit-producing powerhouse in the first place?
That's a great question. It wasn't always this way.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't. So what did agriculture look like in Himachal Pradesh before those sprawling orchards took root?
Imagine a landscape dominated by subsistence farming.
Subsistence farming, so just enough to feed themselves.
Exactly. Wheat, barley, those were the staples back then. Fruits were enjoyed locally, but not really cultivated on a large scale for trade.
So what sparked this transformation? What pushed Himachal Pradesh from subsistence farming to becoming India's fruit bowl?
Well, that's where the story gets really interesting. It all goes back to the British colonists and their arrival in the early 1800s.
The British, what did they have to do with Himachal's fruit industry?
Oh, they had a huge influence.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Well, when the British arrived, they brought with them their love of apples and plums. They saw Himachal's climate and terrain as perfect for cultivating these fruits.
So they basically just started planting apple and plum orchards all over the place.
Pretty much. It was a big gamble, introducing these foreign species to a new environment, but it paid off. Some varieties thrived and forever changed the agricultural landscape of Himachal.
Wow, that's incredible. So the British essentially set the stage for Himachal's fruit industry.
They definitely played a major role, but the story doesn't end there. There are other key figures, like Samuel Stokes, who helped shape Himachal's fruit destiny.
Samuel Stokes, okay, tell me about him. Who was he and what did he do?
Well, Stokes was an American missionary who settled in Himachal Pradesh in the early 20th century.
A missionary turned apple farmer. That's an interesting combination.
Right. He fell in love with the region and saw its potential to produce world-class apples. He introduced high-quality apple varieties in the Shimla region.
So he was kind of like an apple pioneer.
You could say that. He was passionate about apples, and he shared his knowledge with local farmers, helping them adopt modern techniques and improve their yields. His efforts were a turning point for Himachal's apple industry.
It's amazing how one person's passion can have such a ripple effect. So we've got the British introducing apples and plums, then Samuel Stokes stepping in and upping the apple game. But what about other fruits? Did they just sort of appear on their own?
Well, the Green Revolution in the 1960s played a huge role in diversifying Himachal's fruit basket.
The Green Revolution, that was all about increasing agricultural productivity across India.
Exactly. It brought new technologies, high-yielding varieties, fertilizers, irrigation systems, all aimed at boosting production.
So how did that impact Himachal Pradesh specifically?
It pushed farmers to explore new fruits, to expand their horizons beyond just apples and plums.
It's incredible to think about how much has changed in just a couple of centuries. From subsistence farming to becoming India's fruit bowl, Himachal Pradesh's agricultural journey is truly remarkable. But what about those challenges we hear about? Climate change, market volatility, those issues are impacting farmers all over the world.
Absolutely, and Himachal Pradesh is no exception. These challenges are real, and they're forcing the industry to adapt and innovate.
Well, it sounds like we've got a lot more to uncover. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be diving deeper into those challenges and exploring the future of Himachal's fruit industry after the break. We were talking about the challenges facing Himachal's fruit industry, and climate change is a big one.
It really is. You know those dramatic weather events we see on the news, like floods and landslides?
Yeah, those are definitely a concern, especially in a mountainous region like Himachal.
Exactly. But it's not just those extreme events, it's also the subtle shifts in temperature and rainfall patterns that can have a huge impact.
Oh, right, like those chilling hours we hear about.
Exactly. Apple trees need a certain number of chilling hours, periods of cold temperatures, to properly develop and bear fruit. But with temperatures rising, those traditional apple-growing regions might not be as suitable anymore.
So it's like the very environment that made Himachal a fruit-producing powerhouse is now changing the rules of the game. What are apple growers doing to adapt to this? Do they just have to move their orchards up the mountain?
Well, some growers are definitely considering that. Higher altitude areas, like Lahore Spiti in Canon, were once considered too cold for apples. Now they might become the new hotspots.
That's interesting. So we could see a whole shift in where apples are grown in Himachal.
It's definitely a possibility. And this shift might even spark some pretty cool innovations in farming techniques up there.
Like what kind of innovations?
Well, think about vertical farming or protected cultivation. You know, those high-tech setups where temperature and humidity are carefully controlled?
It's like creating microclimates to ensure a stable yield, even as the natural climate throws curveballs.
Exactly. It's all about adapting and finding ways to thrive in a changing world. But of course, shifting entire orchards up a mountain isn't exactly a walk in the park.
Right. What about those existing orchards in the lower regions? Do those farmers just have to abandon their livelihoods?
Well, that's the amazing thing about Himachal's farmers. They're incredibly resilient. They're not just sitting around waiting for solutions. They're actively seeking them out.
Like what kind of solutions are they exploring?
Well, for one, researchers are developing new apple varieties that require fewer chilling hours.
Really? So it's like climate-proofing their crops.
Exactly. It's a promising avenue, but it does come with challenges, you know.
Like what are some of the potential downsides?
Well, for starters, developing new varieties takes time, right? And resources. And there's always that risk that these new apples might not have that same taste or texture that consumers love.
So it's not just a simple fix.
Not really. And then there's the question of access. Will these climate-resilient varieties be accessible to all farmers? Or will they end up further marginalizing smaller growers who can't afford those new saplings?
It's a reminder that even when we find these innovative solutions, we have to be mindful of the unintended consequences, you know?
Absolutely. It's important to think about the ripple effects.
Okay, so climate change is one big challenge. We've also got those pesky pests and diseases that can wreak havoc on crops.
Oh yeah, those are a constant battle for farmers everywhere. And Himachal is no exception.
Are there any eco-friendly solutions on the horizon? You know, ways to control those pests without relying on harsh chemicals?
Definitely. Integrated pest management, or IPM, is gaining traction in Himachal. It's a more holistic approach, you know.
IPM. Okay, tell me more about that. How does it work?
Well, it's all about working with nature instead of against it. IPM focuses on prevention, monitoring, and using a combination of control methods.
So it's not just about spraying everything with pesticides.
Exactly. It might involve introducing beneficial insects that prey on the pests, or using biopesticides, which are derived from natural sources. Even something as simple as crop rotation can disrupt those pest life cycles.
So it's all about finding that balance, right? Protecting the crops without harming the environment or human health in the process.
That's the goal.
Okay, we've talked about climate change, we've talked about pests, but there's another big elephant in the room, and that's market volatility.
Oh, tell me about it. Those price fluctuations can be a real nightmare for farmers.
How are farmers in Himachal dealing with that? Are there any solutions out there?
Well, that's where government policies and market innovations come into play.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, a minimum support price, or MSP, for key fruits like apples could be a good start.
An MSP, okay, explain that.
It's basically a safety net. It ensures that farmers get a minimum income for their produce, even when market prices plummet.
That sounds like a step in the right direction. But what about those market innovations you mentioned?
Oh, there are some really interesting things happening there. Connecting farmers directly to consumers through online platforms and farmers markets is gaining momentum.
Right, cutting out the middlemen so farmers get a fairer price and consumers get fresher, higher quality produce.
Exactly, it's a win-win. But of course, there are logistical challenges, especially in a mountainous region like Himachal.
Yeah, I can imagine. Getting those fruits from those remote orchards to those bustling city markets is no easy feat.
You're right. Infrastructure plays a huge role here. Improving road connectivity to those remote areas, investing in cold storage facilities, and developing more efficient transport systems. Those are all crucial steps.
It sounds like there's a lot of work to be done, but also a lot of potential for growth and innovation.
Absolutely. Himachal has this unique blend of natural resources, hardworking farmers, and a supportive government that's actively seeking solutions.
And let's not forget about those breathtaking Himalayan views.
Oh, for sure. The landscape is an integral part of the story. It's part of what makes Himachal so special.
So, with all these challenges and opportunities in mind, what's your overall outlook on the future of Himachal Pradesh's fruit industry?
Honestly, I'm optimistic. I really am. While the challenges are real and they're complex, I think Himachal has what it takes to not only survive, but thrive.
That's good to hear. But before we get too carried away with the future, let's rewind a bit.
Let's delve deeper into the history of Himachal's fruit industry. going back to the days before those sprawling orchards took over the hillsides.
Sounds like a plan. Let's take a journey back in time. Okay, so we're time traveling back to Himachal Pradesh before it earned the title of Fruit Bowl. What did agriculture look like before those sprawling apple orchards took root?
It was a very different picture back then. You gotta imagine a landscape dominated by subsistence farming before the 19th century.
Subsistence farming, so basically just enough to feed themselves.
Exactly.
What?
Wheat, barley, millet, those were like the backbone of Himachal's agricultural system back then.
And what about fruit? Was there any fruit at all in those days?
Oh, absolutely. Fruits were around, but they weren't cultivated commercially, like on a grand scale for trade.
So they were more like a local treat.
Yeah, a seasonal delight, just woven into the fabric of daily life.
It's fascinating how much has changed. What kinds of fruits did people enjoy back then?
Well, apricots were pretty common. They thrived in the higher altitudes.
Apricots, huh? Interesting. What else?
And of course, there were all sorts of wild berries foraged from the hillsides.
I can just imagine picking those berries straight from the source.
People enjoyed them fresh or maybe preserved them for the leaner months.
So, if fruits were already part of the landscape, what led to that big shift towards commercial fruit farming?
That's where the British colonists come in. Their arrival in the 19th century really marked a turning point.
The British. How did they influence Himachal's fruit scene?
Well, they brought with them their love of apples and plums, and a totally different approach to agriculture, really.
I guess you could say they brought a taste of home with them.
Right. They were big on establishing commercial orchards. They wanted to produce a surplus, for trade and profit.
So they saw an opportunity in Himachal.
Exactly. They figured Himachal's climate and terrain would be ideal for growing those familiar fruits.
So they just started planting apple and plum orchards all over.
Pretty much. It's a bit of a gamble, of course. Introducing foreign species to a new environment, you never know how it'll go.
There's always that element of uncertainty.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, it wasn't always a success. Some varieties struggled, others thrived, and, well, those are the ones that reshaped the landscape.
And that's where the story of Samuel Stokes comes in, right? The apple pioneer we talked about earlier.
That's right. He played a key role in popularizing apple cultivation in Himachal.
Can you remind us again about his contribution?
Sure. So Stokes was this American missionary who really fell in love with Himachal Pradesh in the early 20th century.
A missionary turned apple enthusiast, huh?
He saw the potential for the region to produce world-class apples, and he wasn't afraid to act on it. He introduced high-quality apple varieties in the Shimla region.
He really did set a new standard for apple cultivation.
Oh yeah, he was passionate about it. And he shared his knowledge freely with local farmers, helped them adopt modern techniques, improve their yields.
It's a real legacy he left behind.
Absolutely. And then came the Green Revolution in the 1960s. That was another game changer for Indian agriculture.
The Green Revolution was all about boosting productivity, wasn't it?
Exactly. High-yielding varieties, fertilizers, pesticides. It was all about maximizing output.
So how did that impact Himachal and its fruit industry?
It led to even more diversification. Farmers started exploring new fruits, expanding their horizons beyond those apples and plums.
It's incredible to see how Himachal's fruit industry evolved, from those early days of subsistence farming to the diverse and thriving industry it is today.
It's been quite the journey, hasn't it? And through it all, those farmers have shown remarkable resilience, adapting to new challenges and embracing innovation.
Exactly. And we've seen how everything is interconnected, the landscape, the climate, the people, the history. It's all woven together to create this amazing story of Himachal Pradesh, India's fruit bowl.
And as we wrap up, we want to leave you with something to think about. What role can technology and innovation play in ensuring a sustainable future for Himachal's fruit industry? What choices can we make as consumers to support ethical practices?
It's a journey that continues to unfold, and we all have a role to play in shaping its future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of Himachal Pradesh's fruit industry.